stuff you got going.
Yeah.
Now we are into the actual session is starting, and welcome to you, William, as well for joining. Others might join along the way, but let's get started on today's theme on how to choose initiatives that actually gets approval. And well, I think most of you know me, but anyway, my name is Jasper Steinhausen. I'm the founder of Business with Impact, a leadership consultant, and my specialty is really how do you create massive impact while also creating massive business opportunities. So it's this continuing connection between sustainability and business. That's what I do. So this is the Onward series, and one problem, one solution, and some Q&A. So I'll be spending the next around 8-10 minutes on the problem and solution side, and then some 10 minutes for Q&A, and then you're off for whatever you do at 9. So I just want to share this quick presentation here with a few slides. And here we go. You should be able to see my slides now. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. And I just need to get you guys up here. So if you keep experiencing a lack of approval, it's most likely because you're missing one crucial analysis of where we are today. And I guess I kind of draw this simple diagram to try to make it super, super clear that sustainability as a standalone subject is really, really struggling. And in most places, I would even say dead in the water as something that you can leverage on. Competitiveness is king. The Draghi report that I'm sure most of you have heard about, basically after being through the entire sort of media circus, what stands out and what people remember is that Europe is falling behind on competitiveness, which is actually true. We need to become more competitive, and on the back of that, we thus need to minimize demands and costs for industry, and we got to innovate more. So it's those are the two agendas, and everything that seems to stand in the way for that is being pushed. And the same goes for many, many places in the boardrooms and so on, because there is this misunderstanding about what sustainability really is. So it's seen as a cost. So what we need to do is connect sustainability. We got to sort of think of it as a camber. You got to hatch it to that truck of competitiveness. That's really what is needed to get anything going here. And innovation is the engine for all of this. And that's where this becomes really interesting. And I'll come back to that in about 5 minutes time. Why sustainability is an absolute excellent platform for innovation, and why people in the sustainability space are actually far better at spotting innovations than most of them think about themselves. So you might be thinking, well, how do I figure out what is the right thing for me? And I've made this diagram, and some will be thinking, well, nice if you're a 3-year-old trying to make an X, but there's a slightly more to it. So, so I call this the costing misalignment curve. And the thing is that there is this massive misalignment between what people perceive as the cost side to sustainability and what it can actually deliver. So the way you read this is that you have out here on the vertical one, you have along the horizon, you have all the initiatives you can possibly imagine you could do in whatever situation you're in, whatever company you're in, whatever system you're looking at. And of course, the more you do, the more you mature in terms of this. And then we have here the upward trending one is the direct return on investment. So traditional way of doing a business case. And the other one here is the perceived value. And what's interesting is to see that we need to, in most places, when maturity is low, we need to start by disproving this global narrative around sustainability being costly and bad for business and all of that, and basically obtain the right to make business recommendations. So in most businesses, and that actually also goes for political systems, um, you need to start by actually obtaining that right for somebody to listen to you. Today, most sustainability leaders have very little influence in their organization because people don't not really listening. They're not even paying attention. But what's really, really interesting is that the more you do, the more initiatives you carry out, the more some of these additional values start to kick in. And that's why the actual business case, we need to have a far more multi-layered business case than we do in most cases. So you might invest in one area, but you will gain value from a range of different areas. And the more you do, you need to do a lot. That's why I sort of have this shape of it. But as you start to do something, then first internally you get this more higher level of pride and interest in your workplace. You are more fulfilled. You are more. This makes sense, you know. Apart from doing something interesting and earning my money and my wage and whatever, I'm actually doing something meaningful as well. And it's so well documented, not in sustainability, but actually in the field of HR more, to prove themselves that there's a very strong correlation between if people are proud to go to work and how well they perform, how long they stay, how many sick days they have, and so on and so on. So productivity, sick days, retention rate, churn rate, all of that is part of the game here. And then later, as this starts to spread outwards, you start to see this in terms of impact on customer loyalty, on partner opportunities, of conditions for insurance, for access to capital, and so on and so on. And when you factor that in, well, then all of a sudden you actually can have some of these far more expensive initiatives still having a good return on investment. But the starting point here is the ruling narrative that sustainability is costly, it's bad for business, and we got to compromise in so many ways. And that seems to be the globally ruling narrative around sustainability, and which is why we're seeing, for instance, in Europe, that we're rolling back regulation because we need to, again, back to the Draghi report, right? We got to lower the cost and the problems for European businesses in order to increase competitiveness. But in reality, it should be the other way around. We should do more, not more simple reporting stuff, but actually more on it. But it all comes down to the maturity. And you might be thinking, well, how do I evaluate or figure out what level of maturity I have? So I made a super simple way of doing this. And you could say if you're at the lower end of the scale, well, then companies typically have either a one-man band or a small group sort of defying the odds of doing something. Probably none of you are there, at least some of you, those of you I know, are not. But still, there are no dedicated roles and responsibilities, no or very weak strategies or goals. What's probably more interesting for most is that they sit somewhere here. There might be some ongoing projects. There might be several initiatives simultaneously. This starts to show up at water cooler conversations. There are some sort of dedicated roles and responsibilities, but strategies and goals are there, but they are not integrated. So they're still sort of vague and not super strong. And that will be a sign of you're part of way down that slide, but it still takes a bit of more effort, and you need to figure out where you are. And then of course the top ones there, where it's fully integrated, it starts to be part of it. This is where it kicks in. This is down where you see that part of the slope where this is really starts to kick in. And if you need to, think about an example of how exceptionally this can become, look at a company like Patagonia deciding to give away 99% of all profits every year and still see that as a good investment. That kind of shows you how big the perceived value can actually be, and how much you can leverage on it. So that's really the essential part, is to figure out where are you here, and then back to this model, where do you fit in on this? Where do you need to sit in? What kind of initiatives do you need to start to do before you can do it, to actually get things approved? So it's really about making sure that you follow through on what is perceived as valuable. And in many places, it's not sustainability. So I also said that I would touch upon why is sustainability such a great innovation platform, which really is the name of the game and the reason for competitiveness. Well, up until 1950 or so, there was actually three drivers that most business leaders were taught on how to run a business: flow of time, flow of money, and flow of resources. But in the period from around early 50s to mid 70s, mid early 70s, it kind of lost, it disappeared from first management literature and secondly management training, because we had that period of seemingly abundant material and the prices just kept dropping. So it was no longer a super important strategic issue. It was more like a cost of operation. So most leaders today, if you're not in a really, really resource intense company, or if you don't have that business model of very, very low margins, very high volume, uh, have nobody who really, really focus on the flow of resources. And everybody who has some sort of training in sustainability are trained to look at the flow of resources, because the resources is what connects to all types of impact. So when you look at your business and the top level, top priority problems you have, you cannot avoid looking at it through the flow of resources. And that's where nobody really looks today. So all the innovation people, all the strategically focused people, they're very much up in this space about flow of time and flow of money. So when you come in as sustainability based or circular thinking people or whatever it is, you cannot avoid to look at the flow of resources. And if you try to use that as a way to solve some of the business problems, there is so much you can do. So I have a gift for you at the end, and that's actually a tool where you can start to figure out where in your business model you might be able to find and spot some of these opportunities. But let's shift for now until some of your questions. And I need to move you guys so I can stop sharing. There you go. So I can see you. So any questions, comments, anything that I can do for you now? Could be anything from I don't get what you meant at slide something, or I have a specific question, or this is my business, I'm here, what to do next. Whatever it is, up to you.
Right. Yeah, when I can start, I mean, we just for the others as well. I'm a chief sustainability officer for chemical plants in Europe. We have 7 plants here. We have 14 plants totally, and I'm working for a palm oil company. We are having our own palm oil plantations, and so for us, it's very crucial to have the material flow. Because we are basing half of our production from palm-based and the other is from synthetic material, so from fossil fuel. So it's very important to go with flow and to see where we can optimize. One is that we are optimizing already our plantations with zero waste. So that's one where we have a lot of sustainable improvements. On the other side, in a chemical area, yeah, you need to check then how you can optimize further. So I fully agree what you are saying. And the other thing is what we at the beginning said is the challenge is the traceability of the flow for palm oil and the discussion about it, how to get it, yeah. Because we are getting the material from 7
Do you have
million.
a specific question?
Yeah, no, the question is as well, and this is my daily discussion. The requirements are quite high, and how to explain then to the competent authorities in Europe that the complexity of the supply chain is there, and how deep they're asking. I mean, they're asking that we need to have the traceability from every 7 million smallholders with a blockchain, and that's too much. Theoretically, it's possible, but practical is not possible. So, getting the practical reality to the legal requirements, that is a question mark.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. And by the way, for the rest of you, why don't you, I'll address this, a few words on this, but it's a super complicated, big question. But type your question in the chat if you like, because then we can, I can look at those as well.
Yeah.
Uh, So I think still, one thing is the technical and what is the right level, and I think I will
Yeah,
not try to get into that in a few minutes. But I
yeah,
still think that the overall approach here is that this, rather than this becoming a discussion around, this ends up in mercury details of all kinds
yeah,
because the focus is not on the right place. If we
yeah,
can elevate the game up to how do we actually make a smarter solution that are better for business, better for planet, but in that order, and back to the competitiveness, right? Because right now you are bogged
yeah,
down in that space of problems that are actually just bad for business and costly. And that means that it's low priority and it has a hard time getting through to the right people to make the right decision to actually get traction and movement on the better solution, given that you have that. But
yeah,
it sounds like you have that. And also from what we talked about when we talked last summer, um, or whatever it was. So I think I would still do an effort to try to elevate out of sustainability and more into the business, to the
yeah,
job security space, to competitiveness, to risk reduction, to maintaining companies in Europe, all of that space. Because I know you're looking into it. Perhaps you need to move out if the conditions are here. So I think there's something around that the discussion is positioned in the wrong place because it's in a
yeah,
place right now, back to the one in the beginning, where there is very little focus. So you endlessly get pushed for tomorrow, next
yeah,
quarter, right?
yeah,
Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
I think for me, a different scale of business. We're an SME, 120 people in the UK, and
Okay.
we're a contract manufacturer. We make other people's products. We've
Ah,
done all of the easy stuff. So we've done the solar, we've done the electric vehicles, we've done the charging, we've done the installation, we've done the HVO, we've done the green gas, and all of those projects were either cost neutral or profitable.
yeah,
Solar, best investment we could have ever made, spent 500,000 on 3 projects, returned, that in 3.5, 4 years. We're getting to projects now where there isn't a payback. If
yeah,
we want to we've got biomass in one facility. If we want to replace gas with a heat pump, I'm going to spend £200,000 and I'm not going to see any cost saving. I will see an environmental saving, but obviously it is slightly easier for me because I own the business as a family, but I also have got to convince my board, who I pay to
oh,
be decision makers, and it's like it's getting really hard now. It's difficult. We're actually going to hopefully get some funding to install a battery because the battery doesn't stack up. But there's some funding available. But it's just how we're going to approach these
yeah. Okay.
projects moving forward.
Yes, super good question, and very, very, you're absolutely not alone with this problem. Sitting here saying, okay, we've done what we could see that was just up for grabs, as you say, right? It's
Yeah,
best investment ever. It's kind of like, why didn't we actually do this before? It's kind of, okay, no brainer. But what do we do now, right? And it's back to this need for really analyzing. That's why the tool that I'm going to give you here, I think you might actually like that, because what I've been doing is you all probably are aware of the business model canvas.
yeah,
I have created a impact dimension to add on that, because I find that there are lots of questions that are missing when you look at it. So I created a whole stack of questions, and then I've filtered out some of those and put it in a scorecard where you can test yourself. So it will point to a lot of areas and give you some directions for stuff places where you can go. But the key thing here is really for you to figure out what are the, I would say, 3 to 5 biggest problems you are facing right now, and who's your ideal client and what is theirs. And then try to see which of these can we solve. Again, innovation, flow of resources. If you look at the problems through the flow of resources, what kind of solutions do you see? Because very, very often, if you struggle with getting a decent return on investment, it's because you're not solving an important enough problem,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I think it's a signal of wrong focus, because we look at it as this environmental issue, Whereas if we shift this as a business development issue, an innovation issue, well, then the value of fixing the problem becomes a lot higher. And that's when you start to see some of these ways sorry, if you again think back to the graph, right, about the costing misalignment, that the higher the traditional return on investment tells you there is forever on that idea you set there. So either you need to have, a different initiative that have more value to it, or you need to position it slightly later in the game where some of the additional values have kicked in more, and thus spending 200,000 pounds on that conversion will actually make sense, because by then you will get a lot of respect and feedback from clients on that's really, really good. That's kind of what we expected was your next step, or you actually surpassed our expectations. But right now, nobody was going to say, oh, that's amazing, William. It would be more like, oh, okay, nice. But yeah, on to the next thing, right? So I think it's the timing issue for you there. That becomes essential. Okay.
Jasper,
I'm happy to stay and have a few more questions for you if you like. I just want to share, because if you need to go, I respect your time. I just want to share here, because there's a QR code. I'll also send it to you, of course. But let me just get this up on the screen again. Here we go. You should be able to see it now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So as I said, I've created this business model impact assessment for you, free of charge, of course, where you can go in and answer a range of questions. So you should probably set aside something like 8-10 minutes to do this, because I didn't want to have just this super quick, but also super superficial. So this is a sort of an in between. I could also bug you down for 30 minutes, but I haven't done that. So imagine you should probably spend some 8-10 minutes here answering all of these questions. They're simple to answer because they're yes, no questions, all of them. So you don't need a pen and paper or data or anything. These are diagnostic questions around, have you explored the opportunities in all of the 9 fields within the business model canvas? And if not, well, here are probably some areas where you could find interesting to look into. So if you think this is interesting, have a look at it. It is absolutely new. You are the very first people on the planet to see this, because I finalized it last night, because I got the idea a couple of weeks ago and then decided to actually make this as a gift for you today. So absolutely nobody has had a chance to test it other than myself. So I'll also be super happy for any feedback, and do apologize if you find a misspell somewhere or something. That might happen.
Look at it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Very good.
Good.
Thank you.
So I can stay along for a bit more if anybody has a question or anything, but I fully respect if you need to go. But if needed, I can stay a bit longer. And I will just stop sharing